Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are not just analyzing sources. We are actually building a strategic tool.
A blueprint.
Exactly, a complete actionable blueprint for launching a special purpose vehicle, an SPV in the Czech Republic. If you are an international founder, particularly one focused on the bleeding edge of finance like fintech or crypto, and you're looking for the most efficient, compliant entry point into the European Union, this dive is absolutely custom made for you.
It really is.
We've compiled a comprehensive step-by-step guide. It details the entire journey of setting up a Czech limited liability company, which is known as an s.r.o.
Right.
We're going from the initial name check right up to activation. The focus here, and it's demanded by the complexity of the modern digital economy, is on efficiency, absolute compliance, and market entry speed.
And that speed is key.
It is. We are going to treat this process not as some kind of chore, but as the foundational strategy for your entire European operational base.
And that's the key distinction we need to make really clear right up front. This is so much more than a bureaucratic checklist.
Okay.
The Czech Republic has spent years really establishing itself not just as an EU member, but as a genuinely innovation-friendly jurisdiction.
Which is not always the case in the EU.
Not at all. And for high-growth founders, especially those who need to navigate the incoming regulatory shifts like the EU's MiCA framework, well, the Czech s.r.o. structure offers a unique proposition. It's cost-effective and flexible, yes, but crucially,
That's the bungee.
it provides an immediate, solid foundation for achieving EU-wide licensing. For passporting your services across the entire bloc, we are mapping out operational excellence here.
So here's the core promise of the blueprint we're building today. It's a high-speed path to launching a compliant entity, one that immediately positions you for broader European regulatory acceptance.
That's the goal.
Now, let's unpack the strategic choice in detail. Okay, let's get into it. Section 1 is the executive overview. The big why. Why, strategically, is the Czech SPV setup, the s.r.o., uniquely attractive compared to, say, Malta or Cyprus or even the Netherlands?
Yeah, that's the right question.
The source highlights flexibility and cost-effectiveness.
It does, and the appeal is really rooted in balance. The Czech Republic offers the security and, the legal certainty of a central European economy.
Right.
But it does so with a significantly lower administrative and capital burden than jurisdictions like, say, Germany or France.
Okay, so when the source says flexibility and cost-effectiveness, it's not just about being cheap.
No, not at all. It's speaking directly to the transactional costs. Corporation fees are low, the minimum capital is, minimal, and the required physical presence of virtual office is very inexpensive.
Right.
For international businesses looking for that regional expansion, this predictability and accessibility are massive benefits.
And we also have to remember the context here, don't we?
We do. The Czech Republic has a really strong engineering and tech pedigree. They're not new to this. They're actively seeking to attract what the source calls crypto and fintech pioneers.
So they're inviting them in.
Exactly. This means their regulatory authorities, while rigorous, are often more prepared to engage with novel business models than, some of the legacy financial centers might be. They've actually streamlined their incorporation rules specifically to reduce friction for entities setting up these kinds of digital operations.
You mentioned MiCA regulation. That's the Markets and Crypto Assets Regulation, it's the defining legal framework for crypto service providers in the EU, isn't it?
It is. It's huge, it's complicated, and it requires real substance.
So how does the simple act of launching an s.r.o. in Czechia connect to the very real and immediate requirement of MiCA compliance?
That connection is the strategic linchpin. It's everything. MiCA mandates that any entity offering crypto asset services,
Like exchanges or custody providers.
exactly, or even advisory services, they must be registered or licensed as a CASP, a crypto asset service provider within an EU member state. Setting up the s.r.o. is the non-negotiable first step toward achieving this.
It's the price of entry.
It's the price of entry. The s.r.o. provides the legal substance. It ensures you have a clear structure for EU shareholding, an accountable registered office, and legally identified directors. The s.r.o. itself isn't the license.
Of course.
It's the legal body that applies for the license. And choosing Czechia is often strategic because the local expertise and the regulatory communication channels for getting that CASP license later on are really well established. It minimizes the perceived risk by regulators.
Compared to what?
Compared to, say, a brand new entity just popping up in a less regulated jurisdiction. It's all about building a robust compliance backbone that supports that eventual regulatory passporting across all 27 EU member states.
Okay, that makes perfect sense for compliance, but let me introduce some friction here. You say it's innovation friendly, but institutional investors, I'm talking about the serious venture capital firms, they often prefer the perceived stricter oversight and historical prestige of major hubs like Dublin or Luxembourg or Frankfurt.
That's a fair point.
If you pitch an SRO to a major global VC, how do you sell the structure? Doesn't the lighter regulatory touch sometimes raise flags about long-term stability?
That's an essential challenge. It requires some strategic framing. You don't sell the SRO as lighter.
You sell it as efficient.
Exactly. Efficient. Dublin and Frankfurt have substantial operational overheads. We're talking higher salary expectations, much higher commercial real estate costs, and more complex employment laws. For a startup or an SPV that needs to reserve its capital for product development and scaling, well, efficiency really matters.
So what's the pitch to the VC?
The sell to the VC is this. The SRO allows for rapid establishment and proof-of-concept operation within the EU framework, without hemorrhaging capital on unnecessary fixed costs.
I see.
Then, once the company hits Series B or C and needs a more imposing high-substance corporate center, they can always establish a major headquarters elsewhere. But the SRO remains the EU legal entity responsible for the licensed activity.
And the due diligence checks out.
Crucially, yes. Czechia maintains robust anti-money laundering controls and transparent corporate governance standards. That satisfies institutional due diligence requirements, especially when you pair it with strong local management.
So it's about optimizing the initial outlay while making sure the long-term structure is both scalable and compliant.
That's it in a nutshell.
Beyond just regulatory alignment, are there any specific structural advantages, I'm thinking tax incentives maybe, that reinforce this choice?
Absolutely. The general corporate tax rate is competitive, and while, tax details always require a specialist consultation,
Of course.
the clear structural rules for EU shareholding simplify things like dividend distribution and cross-border transactions.
Yeah.
That reduces a lot of administrative guesswork.
And the government itself.
The Czech government is often proactive in providing grants and research incentives, especially for high-tech and R&D heavy sectors. Now, this isn't the main focus of this particular setup blueprint, but it reinforces the overall message that the government is actively trying to attract these high-value digital enterprises. The streamlined incorporation and clear legal foundation of the SRO are simply the opening gambit in a much broader pro-innovation policy.
That really solidifies it. It makes it clear why Czechia is the strategic choice. The SRO structure offers the legal certainty you need for the EU, but without the punitive overheads of some of the older financial centers.
It's a pragmatic launchpad, a very smart one.
Okay, let's move on. Building the right foundation is everything. If phase one preparation is flawed in any way, the whole timeline just collapses, doesn't it?
It completely falls apart. The source details this as the crucial stage for avoiding later bottlenecks, and it's not exaggerating.
So let's dive into the required rigor.
And we really cannot stress this enough. Your preparation must be meticulous. The notary and the commercial register are legal gatekeepers. They operate on absolute, unwavering adherence to process.
No room for error.
None. Any misstep here, a poorly checked document, a tiny administrative oversight, it sends you back weeks.
All right, starting with the very basics. Name clearance. What specifically constitutes a unique name, and what happens if two names are just, similar but not identical?
Legally, the company name has to be unique in the Czech commercial register. This is to protect existing brands and, of course, to prevent consumer confusion. If a name is merely similar, say, using the same root word but adding a descriptor, the registrar has the discretion to reject it.
On what grounds?
If they believe it could confuse the public about the entity's identity or its business focus. So best practice is always to aim for something truly distinctive.
And there's the suffix.
Yes, and you absolutely must adhere to the mandatory suffix, s.r.o. It's the abbreviation for Społeczność s Rocznym Omazeniem.
And there's a practical tip for checking this, right?
A crucial one. The source points to the official online tool, the commercial register at or.justice.czs.ur. Before you even involve a legal team, a quick search here eliminates 90% of the common naming rejections.
So do your homework first.
It's the simplest, highest impact administrative check you can possibly perform.
Okay, next up, the base of operations. Securing the registered office. The source is clear. You need a verified Czech address before formalization. How does the law define this requirement, and how does that cost-effective virtual seat option fit into the legal definition?
The registered office is the official legal domicile of the company. It's where all official correspondence and legal process documents are served. Legally, the key here is the reliability of that address.
And a virtual office is considered reliable.
It is. A physical office, of course, meets this requirement, but for a digital SPV, a virtual seat is ideal. A virtual seat, which is typically provided by a specialized service provider or a local accounting firm, is legally compliant because the provider guarantees they will receive official mail on the company's behalf and forward it.
So it ensures the s.r.o. is never legally unreachable by the state authorities.
Precisely.
And the source gave us a fantastic detail on this. The approximate cost is only about 100 euros per year for these virtual seats.
That cost is incredibly disruptive in a good way. It just minimizes the fixed overhead required to maintain a legal presence.
I mean, compare that to?
Exactly. Compare this to the thousands of euros required for maintaining a physical office or even just a co-working space in many Western EU capitals. The service-provided reliable official mail reception is vital for compliance, and its low cost just emphasizes the Czech Republic's strategy to lower the barrier for entry.
All right, finally for this phase, we turn the lens on the people involved, the personal requirements check for shareholders and directors. What exact legal standards, we're talking integrity, capacity, trade license eligibility, must these individuals meet?
These requirements are all rooted in ensuring good corporate governance. The integrity test, for instance, is confirmed via the criminal record extract. It ensures the individual hasn't been convicted of specific financial or commercial crimes.
And capacity.
The legal capacity assessment just confirms they are of sound mind and legal age to enter into the complex agreements required to run a business. Standard stuff.
Okay, but the trade license eligibility check sounds more specific.
It is more practical. Even if the s.r.o's scope is broad, like IT consultancy, the managers must confirm they are eligible to hold a trade license under Czech law.
And what would make them ineligible?
This typically bars individuals who have recently declared bankruptcy or have been barred from professional practice, either in the Czech Republic or elsewhere in the EU. It isn't about checking their professional qualifications, mind you.
It's about their legal standing.
Exactly. Their legal eligibility to manage a commercial entity in Czechia. This rigor up front is what makes the structure so appealing to later investors. They know the legal foundation is absolutely sound.
So a failure in phase one means more than just annoyance. It means there could be a fundamental flaw in the individuals who are intended to lead the company.
That's why these early checks must be done with extreme accuracy.
Okay, with that preparation rigorously complete, we transition to phase two, constitution. This is the moment the s.r.o. is legally born, and the notary is the ultimate authority in this phase.
Correct. The notary acts as a certified, impartial, legal witness. They confirm the documents, they verify the identities, and they legally execute the founding deed. If your documents are perfect, this appointment is fast and decisive.
And if they're flawed,
the notary will refuse to proceed. It forces a complete reset.
Let's discuss what seems to be the single most difficult administrative hurdle. The documentation required, specifically that criminal record extract. We know it has to be apostilled A&D translated. For our listener who might be based outside of Europe, say in the US or Australia, what does obtaining an apostille actually entail, and what is a typical logistical timeline?
This is where most international founders miscalculate badly. The criminal record extract, sourced from the individual's country of origin, first needs that apostille stamp.
Which certifies the document for international use.
Right. It certifies the document's origin and its official stamp for international legal use under the Hague Convention. Now, obtaining the apostille is not an instant process.
How long are we talking?
Depending on the issuing authority, often a State Department or a federal office, this can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 6 weeks, especially in larger non-EU countries. And you cannot get the Czech translation until the apostille is physically affixed to the document.
Why not?
Because the apostille itself is part of the official document that needs to be translated. This sequence adds critical time. You need to budget a minimum of a month for the secure official handling of this one specific document before you can even think about scheduling the notary appointment.
That's a crucial timeline warning. And once it's apostilled, the Czech translation has to be done by a sworn certified translator, right? You can't just use any old translation service.
Precisely. It must be an official Czech court-appointed translator. This guarantees the legal accuracy of the translation and connects it physically to the original document with a seal.
And if you don't?
Immediate rejection by the notary. The complexity of this whole thing, getting the apostille, then the certified translation, all while you're watching that 90-day expiry clock ticking down, is why hiring a local law firm or service provider to manage this entire sub-process is generally the most time-efficient decision.
let's assume we're perfectly documented and we're finally in front of the notary. The core output of this meeting is the founding deed. What essential, non-negotiable legal elements must this deed contain to be considered valid and complete?
The deed is the corporate DNA. It must state with absolute legal clarity the s.r.o.'s name and registered address, the exhaustive list of its business activities or its scope, the total amount of registered capital.
Which we'll get to in a moment.
Right. And the complete list of shareholders and their specific contributions. And finally, the definition of management, including the assigned directors and their signing rights. If any of these foundational elements are ambiguous or missing, the company simply has no legal standing.
And it's issued in Czech.
Yes, and this is important. The notarial deed is legally issued in Czech. So international founders often overlook the necessity of the bilingual annex.
Which gives them a certified translation on the spot.
Exactly. While they might receive an English copy later, the bilingual annex certified by the notary at the time of signing provides immediate, legally certified comprehension of the exact terms. It's indispensable for good governance, and frankly, it's an easy administrative add-on that removes a profound amount of risk.
Okay, now let's talk about the key differentiator you mentioned, capital contribution. We've established the CZK 20,000 minimum, which is just a few €100, but the true strategic benefit here is the lack of a bank escrow. Why is this flexibility permitted, and how exactly does the notary confirm the deposit without involving a bank?
This is the genius of the Czech s.r.o. setup for startups. It's just so pragmatic. Historically, the minimum capital was set higher, and a bank escrow was required to protect potential creditors.
The idea being that there's a pool of reliable capital available.
Right. However, the law was adapted to reduce the barrier to entrepreneurship. For the minimum of 20,000 Czech koruna, the requirement for a temporary bank escrow account is completely waived.
So how is it handled?
Instead, the process is decentralized to the notary. The director or shareholder must physically bring the cash, or proof of the cash, being transferred to a dedicated account, to the notary appointment.
Wait, they bring actual physical cash to the notary?
Often, yes, or a certified document confirming its availability. The notary then issues an official declaration confirming that the capital contribution has been made in the manner prescribed by the deed.
And that piece of paper is the legal substitute for a bank letter.
That single piece of paper, the notary's declaration, is the legal substitute for the bank escrow letter. It's instantaneous. It bypasses the several weeks it can take to open a temporary bank account, which is a major friction point for foreigners. And it immediately moves the process forward.
And there's another benefit too, isn't there?
Yes, and here is the second critical financial advantage. Once the notarization is complete and the company is registered, that CZK 20,000 is immediately returned or becomes operational working capital.
It's not locked away.
It is not locked away indefinitely. This financial liquidity is paramount for early-stage tech ventures. The lack of bank friction and the ability to reclaim the capital makes the Czech setup highly capital efficient compared to, say, setting up an entity that requires 25,000 euros locked in escrow for months in other EU countries.
That flexibility really just undercuts the administrative costs of establishment.
It does.
It transforms the capital requirement from a barrier into what is essentially a legal formality, confirmed right there at the table.
That's the perfect way to put it.
The legal foundation is set. We now transition to phase 3, activation. These are the immediate administrative steps that turn that notarized deed into a legally functional, tax-paying business.
Exactly. This phase is all about filing and securing operational permissions. And the speed here is often dictated by the efficiency of the local court and your administrative service providers.
Okay, so the first operational requirement is the trade license, the Jufnostenskie oprávnění. For a fintech SPV, for example, what specific categories might they need, and how is this process expedited?
For a standard digital SPV, they usually apply for a broad general trade license. That covers services, trade, and consultancy. Now, if they are engaging in specific regulated financial services, even pre-MiCA, they may need specialized trade licenses, but the general one covers most initial setup needs.
And how do you speed it up?
The process is expedited through the use of a power of attorney, a POA. A local lawyer or accountant submits the application electronically to the trade license office.
Ah, so you don't have to go in person.
Right. And because the director's eligibility was already vetted back in phase 1, the process is rapid. A digital certificate is typically issued within 1 to 3 business days. The speed is essential because you cannot file the final commercial register application without a valid trade license.
So once that digital license is in hand, we move to the main filing, the commercial register application. Where is this application filed, and what does the court look for when they're reviewing this comprehensive package of documents?
The application is filed with the local court in the district where the s.r.o.'s registered office is located. And the court performs the final, absolute legal check. They're looking for consistency and completeness.
So they're checking every document against every other document.
Every single one. The package must include the original notarized founding deed, the new trade license, proof of the address, that notarized owner's consent form, the director's consent, and the notary's confirmation of the capital deposit.
It all has to line up perfectly.
Perfectly. The court's review is all about ensuring that every step, the legality of the Constitution, the eligibility of the managers, the security of the address, and the confirmation of the capital has been fulfilled perfectly. Only once they are satisfied does the s.r.o. receive its official registration number, which formally brings it into existence.
Now, outside of the court filing, there is the critical necessity of tax registration and the mandatory data box setup. Let's focus on the data box because this is often misunderstood by foreign founders. What is it, and why is it absolutely non-negotiable?
The data box, or datova schranke, is absolutely vital. You cannot operate without it. Think of it as a mandatory state-run, certified email account that legally replaces registered paper mail.
Okay, so it's an official inbox from the government.
Exactly. Unlike in many countries where authorities rely on physical post, Czech state authorities, the tax offices, Social Security, the courts, they all communicate officially and legally through this data box.
So it's mandatory to set it up.
Mandatory. Immediately after incorporation. And failure to check your data box is legally equivalent to ignoring certified mail. If the tax authority sends a notice or a deadline, and you miss it because you didn't check the data box, the deadline stands and all the penalties apply.
Wow.
It's a mechanism for efficiency for the state, but it requires diligent operational management from the company's side. This is why local accountants typically coordinate this as part of their initial service package, ensuring the founder has access and protocols are in place for daily monitoring. It is the lifeblood of communication with the Czech state.
That detail is a severe warning to any remote director. Delegate the monitoring of the data box or you will face regulatory penalties.
Without a doubt.
Okay, let's consolidate everything into a clear checklist for the listener. What are the essential physical or digitally certified documents a founder must have in hand before they even initiate phase 2?
Okay, starting with personal documentation. You need a valid EU passport or ID, plus a document confirming the residential address for legal and background checks. The criminal record extract, which, again, must be apostilled and officially Czech translated.
You can't say that enough times.
You really can't.
Yeah.
For property documentation. The notarized owner's consent for the registered office address is required. This confirms the owner, or the virtual office provider, consents to the s.r.o. using that address as its official legal domicile.
And for administration.
Administratively, the power of attorney. This must have a notarized signature, and it grants your local specialists the right to handle registry and trade license filings on your behalf. This POA saves an immense amount of logistical time.
And what about the immediate required funds, the Money Matters checklist?
Two things. First, the CZK 20,000 minimum share capital. This has to be available in cash or ready for transfer at the notary meeting. Second, sufficient funds for the notary and administration fees. These fees are variable, but they must be paid at the time of notarization. They cover the deed, the necessary notarized signatures, and the commercial register filing fee. These are the only immediate cash outflows required to secure the company's legal existence.
So in connecting the 3 phases, preparation, constitution, activation, it's crystal clear that phase 1's rigor just dictates everything that follows.
It does. If your personal documents are not perfectly prepared, phase 2 stalls. If phase 2 is flawless, phase 3 accelerates dramatically, allowing the s.r.o. to transition from a legal concept to an active operation in minimal time. It's a process that's built on administrative momentum.
That detailed roadmap ensures no stone is left unturned during the setup. Now let's pivot to the longer view, addressing common questions and mapping out the non-negotiable ongoing compliance burden.
Right. What happens after you're up and running?
Exactly. Starting with that critical document again, the criminal extract. We mentioned the 90-day validity. Can you provide a practical warning about why this is such a hard deadline?
It's a hard deadline because it speaks to the integrity requirement. The state wants the most current confirmation of the director's clean record. The 90-day countdown begins the moment the government agency issues the document.
Not when you receive it.
No. Let me give you a common scenario. A founder orders the extract. It takes 2 weeks to arrive. They then send it for apostille, which takes another 6 weeks because of high volume.
So that's 8 weeks, all right.
Right, by the time it's apostilled and translated, 8 weeks may have passed. They schedule the notary appointment for week 10. Everything seems fine. But if there's any administrative delay, the notary schedule fills up, or a translation error requires a 1-day correction, and the appointment slips to day 91.
It's invalid.
Instantly invalid. The entire process stops. You have to restart the process of obtaining a new extract, which means another 8 weeks, minimum. Founders have to secure this document right before their intended launch window, treating the 90 days as an absolute maximum, not a target.
That real-world friction just underscores the need for aggressive scheduling.
Okay, let's address a strategic question. Does the director need Czech residency? You said no, but if the director is fully remote, managing a crypto entity from abroad, how does the Czech government ensure accountability? What are the inherent legal risks of a fully remote directorship?
This is a point that requires careful consideration. The technical answer is no. An EU citizen does not need a residence permit. A declared EU address is sufficient, and this is a huge flexibility boon.
But there has to be a catch. How is accountability enforced?
The Czech state ensures accountability through several mechanisms. First, the s.r.o. itself is a legal entity bound by Czech law, regardless of where the director physically sits.
Okay.
Second, the registered office in Czechia acts as the point of legal service. All formal notices go there, and via the data box. Third, the director must typically appoint a power of attorney to handle local operational and legal filings.
And if the director breaches their duties, the registered legal entity, the s.r.o., remains liable. The Czech courts retain jurisdiction over the company's assets and its legal obligations, even if the director is abroad.
So what's the risk for the founder?
The risk for the founder lies in negligence. If the director ignores their data box, misses a tax filing, or fails to meet legal deadlines because they are remote, the penalty is applied to the s.r.o. So while you gain flexibility, you must ensure you have robust local administrative support to bridge that geographical gap.
Got it. Let's look at long-term governance, starting with the annual general meeting, the AGM. How does the Czech framework simplify governance for small, single-member SPVs?
The simplification here is profound. The law recognizes that for a single-member s.r.o., meaning the founder is the sole shareholder, holding a formal meeting with yourself is a waste of time.
So you don't have to.
You don't. The law allows all decisions required of the AGM to be made and documented in writing by that single member.
That's a huge operational advantage.
Enormous, especially for small, digitally focused businesses. It completely removes the bureaucratic burden of drafting formal meeting minutes, scheduling, adhering to strict notification periods. Decisions about capital allocation, manager approvals, or strategic pivots can be documented and implemented immediately. It supports rapid business agility.
Okay, moving to financial compliance, bookkeeping and audits. Double-entry bookkeeping is mandatory. What specific standards or duties does this entail for the average s.r.o.?
Double-entry bookkeeping is the standard accounting method, tracking debits and credits. For the s.r.o., this is mandatory from day one, regardless of size.
What does that mean in practice?
It means the s.r.o. must maintain accurate records of everything, all invoices, receipts, bank statements. And they have to be categorized according to Czech accounting standards, which generally align with IFRS or EU principles. Practically, this requires working with a Czech accountant to manage monthly or quarterly filings, ensure compliance with VAT rules if they apply, and prepare the mandatory annual financial statements,
Which have to be filed.
Which must be filed with the commercial register. This cannot be outsourced entirely to an accounting system in another country. It must adhere to local rules.
And the high threshold for mandatory audits, CZK 80 million, that's roughly 3.2 million euros, needs to be put into context. For a typical startup, how significant is that ceiling?
That threshold is incredibly high for a nascent SPV or startup. For context, 80 million koruna in turnover represents significant scale. You are likely nearing Series C or D funding levels, or you've established a substantial revenue stream over multiple years.
It's not something an early-stage company needs to worry about.
Not at all. This high threshold signifies a regulatory philosophy that avoids burdening early-stage companies with the significant cost and time consumption of a mandatory external audit. It lets founders focus their capital on growth.
Unlike other jurisdictions.
Right. In jurisdictions with lower audit thresholds, sometimes €1 million or less, compliance costs can severely strangle early cash flow. By setting it so high, Czechia reserves mandatory audits for truly mature, revenue-generating entities. It just reinforces that supportive, innovation-friendly environment we talked about at the start.
Finally, the UBO register, the ultimate beneficial owner. This is a non-negotiable EU mandate for anti-money laundering. What's the timeline and the ease of filing here?
The timeline is strict and non-negotiable. The SPV must file the UBO information within 15 days of its incorporation. This is a central component of EU transparency requirements.
But is it difficult?
No, the process is streamlined for sole shareholders, which most SPVs start as. Because the notary is already involved in the constitution, they have all the required personal and shareholding data. It is often filed seamlessly through the notary's e-filing system as part of the closing administrative work.
So it's described as a breeze.
It is, for a simple structure. If there are complex layers of beneficial ownership, it becomes more intricate, of course. But for the basic single-member s.r.o, it's designed to be a rapid administrative checkbox handled by your legal representative.
Okay, so to summarize the ongoing compliance burden.
While the standards are high mandatory double-entry bookkeeping, data box vigilance, UBO filing the high audit threshold, and the simplified governance for single-member entities drastically lower the operational friction. It makes the s.r.o structure remarkably founder-friendly, all within a rigorously compliant EU ecosystem.
That holistic view from the initial name check all the way to navigating the mandatory data box provides the founder with a complete risk and opportunity assessment. #tag outro.
It really does.
We have successfully mapped out the blueprint for launching a compliant, capital-efficient Czech SPV. We moved through the 3 critical phases, establishing rigor in preparation,
Meticulous preparation.
executing the high-efficiency constitution that leverages notary confirmation over bank escrow, and completing the rapid post-constitution activation, which includes setting up that all-important data box.
The strategic choice of Czechia, specifically using the s.r.o structure, is clear. It provides the legal substance needed to pursue EU licensing, like the CASP status under MiCA, while avoiding the significant administrative and capital overheads you find elsewhere. The detailed map we've covered today really sets the stage for success, transforming the Czech market into a strategic launchpad for your European business goals.
As we close out, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over, specifically concerning the operational agility we repeatedly highlighted.
Okay.
Considering the flexibility of the single-member s.r.o, where AGM decisions can be made instantly in writing, bypassing the need for formal meetings, and coupling this with the fully remote directorship model. What operational advantages does this specific governance structure offer to small, digitally focused businesses that rely heavily on speed and decentralized management to capture fast-moving market opportunities?
That's a great question.
Think about how this structure minimizes internal friction and accelerates strategic pivoting in real time.
A lot to think about there.
That is all for this deep dive. We hope this blueprint empowers your next European expansion. Until next time.
Stay curious and plan meticulously.
And remember that 90-day deadline on the criminal record.